Can you believe it had been 3 years since Eric Johnson first set foot in Oak Ridge Estates? Picture this: a quiet, upper-middle-class suburban gem just outside Atlanta, Georgia, where the lawns were flawless seriously, not a blade out of place, and the tree-lined streets whispered promises of peace. The homes, oh, they were elegant, with spacious porches that practically begged for lazy Sunday afternoons. On paper, it was the dream neighborhood, a place where neighbors flashed warm smiles and life was supposed to be nothing short of serene. But hold on, there was a catch. A massive, infuriating catch named Karen Whitmore. She wasn't just the HOA president, she was the undisputed dictator of Oak Ridge Estates. A woman in her mid-50s, rocking a year-round tan that screamed, "I'm better than you." She strutted around in her collection of pastel pantsuits like some suburban queen. Her belief that she alone could call the shots? Unshakable. She didn't just enforce the rules, she conjured them out of thin air whenever it suited her twisted little agenda. From the second Eric rolled up with his moving truck, Karen had him in her crosshairs. At first, it was petty nonsense. Can you imagine getting a snotty notice in the mail about your trash bins being too visible from the street? His neighbors did the exact same thing, but did they get a slap on the wrist? Nope. Then came a warning about his lawn, his pristine, perfectly maintained lawn needing to align with community standards. What standards, Karen? And don't even get me started on the fine for an oil stain in his driveway, so faint you'd need a magnifying glass to spot it. Eric saw through her game right away. Other residents pulled the same stunts, but only he got the official violations. Was it about the rules? Heck no! It was about control, pure, unadulterated control, and Karen wanted him out. Why, you ask? Because Eric was one of the only black homeowners in Oak Ridge Estates, and Karen's passive-aggressive antics weren't exactly subtle. He'd learned to pick his battles, though let the small stuff slide, right? She was annoying, sure, but unstoppable? Not quite. That is, until she went way, way too far. Picture this. One sunny Friday afternoon, Eric's 72-year-old mother, Diane Johnson, rolled into town from Chicago for a surprise visit. She'd never laid eyes on her son's new digs and was itching to spend some quality time with him. Diane? Oh, she was a gem, a retired teacher with a heart of gold, a razor-sharp mind, and a fierce love for her boy. She'd raised Eric single-handedly, juggling 2 jobs to put him through college and graduate school. Talk about a superhero. Eric was over the moon to see her, but guess who wasn't? You got it, Karen. The next morning, Eric had to jet off to work early, leaving Diane alone in the house. She was just chilling in the kitchen, sipping coffee, soaking in the peaceful quiet of the neighborhood when, bam, a knock at the door shattered the calm. Diane opened it, and who's standing there? None other than Karen Whitmore, all thin and stiff, clutching a clipboard like it was her scepter of power. Her lips stretched into a smile that didn't even come close to reaching her eyes. "Oh," she cooed, her voice oozing with fake sweetness. "You must be visiting." Diane, ever polite, nodded. "That's right, I'm Eric's mother." Karen's smile flickered. Did she just flinch? And then she hit Diane with, "And do you happen to have a guest permit?" Diane's brow shot up. "A what?" Karen sighed, oh so dramatically, flipping a page on her precious clipboard. All overnight guests are required to have an official HOA guest permit signed by the board. Can you even believe the nerve of this woman? Diane's eyebrows practically hit the ceiling. "That's ridiculous!" Eric never mentioned that. Karen let out this smug, patronizing little chuckle, "Oh," infuriating, and said, "Well, given recent incidents, we've had to tighten security. I'm sure you heard about the vandalism near the neighborhood last month. Some very suspicious individuals were seen lurking around, and we simply can't be too careful." Diane's polite vibe, gone. She could hear the slimy, unspoken jab in Karen's words loud and clear. Karen kept going, dropping her voice like she was sharing some big secret. It's a safety measure. I mean, you wouldn't want anything happening in a lovely community like this, right? That's why all unexpected guests need to be documented. Diane folded her arms. Oh, she was done playing nice. So you're telling me a mother can't visit her own son without jumping through hoops? She shot back. Karen like Diane was some naughty kid. We're just ensuring proper protocol is followed. Since I wasn't notified of your arrival, I'll have to issue a fine. Diane blinked, stunned. A fine? Karen nodded, all solemn and fake serious. $1,500. Diane's jaw practically on the floor. For what? Karen kept her face blank, like she wasn't pulling this rule out of nowhere. For failing to submit a guest request in advance. She spun that clipboard around, jabbing at an empty spot under visitor approvals. Your name isn't listed. That means unauthorized residency. Unauthorized residency. Are you kidding me? Diane's voice turned to ice chilling. That's absurd. Karen just shrugged, all casual. Rules are rules. I'd hate for this to become a bigger issue. Diane was fuming. How dare she? As Karen spun on her heel and strutted off, clipboard gripped tight in her perfectly manicured claws. That evening, Eric dragged himself home, wiped out from work, dreaming of a quiet dinner with his mom. But nope, he barely dropped his keys before Diane stormed in, her face twisted with frustration. Baby, we need to talk, she declared, her voice dripping with worry. Oh no, what now? Eric tensed up fast. What's wrong? Diane exhaled hard, trying to keep it together, but the anger spilled out. That woman, Karen, came knocking on the door this morning, demanding some kind of guest permit. She said it was a new rule. Eric's brows furrowed deep. A guest permit? She acted like it was serious. Eric, like I was breaking some law by being here. Diane sank onto the couch, rubbing her temples. I didn't want to cause trouble for you, but I had no idea if it was real or not. The way she talked about security and all those incidents, it sounded so official. Eric sighed, running a hand down his face. Could this day get any worse? Mom, she's lying. Diane hesitated, her eyes searching his. Are you sure? Yes, he said, his voice rock solid. She's making it up probably because she saw you were black and thought she could intimidate you. Diane shook her head, still shaken. I don't want you getting into trouble with your home. This isn't like when you were renting apartments. You own this place. You've worked too hard for some sneaky HOA rules to mess that up. Oh, her words hit him hard. His mom, Eric, plopped down beside his mom, his chest tight with a swirling mix of anger and guilt. Can you imagine how that felt? His mother, Diane, had spent her entire life shielding him from the world's nonsense, pouring her heart into raising him. And now here she was, fretting that just showing up might jeopardize his hard-earned home. That's exactly what she wants, he muttered under his breath, his voice low and bitter, to make us feel like we don't belong, like we're outsiders in our own space. Diane pursed her lips, her eyes narrowing with that fierce spark he knew so well. So what do we do, huh? Just roll over and pay this ridiculous fine? Eric shook his head hard. Oh, no way. Hell no. I'm going to dig into every last detail, figure out what's legal and what's not. If she's bluffing, and I bet she is, I'll shut this whole thing down. Diane let out a small, shaky sigh of relief, her shoulders easing just a bit. Good. Because I didn't haul myself all the way from Chicago just to let some HOA tyrant with a clipboard bully me. Eric cracked a small, proud smile. There it was. Now that's the fierce woman who raised me. That night, Eric yanked out his laptop with a fire in his gut. He wasn't just going to fight this. He was going to crush it. Sleep? Forget about it. He barely caught a wink, hunched over his kitchen table, a half-empty cup of coffee growing cold and lonely beside him. The dim room was lit only by the harsh glow of his laptop screen. Talk about dedication. He dove headfirst into every HOA document he could get his hands on, community guidelines, bylaws, amendments, anything that might mention guest policies. His eyes burned like they were on fire from sheer exhaustion. But did he stop? No way. He kept scrolling, scanning line after line, his heart pounding with every click. And guess what he found? Nothing. Not a single whisper of a guest permit. No rule demanding visitors get approval. No policy saying he had to notify the HOA about his own mother staying over. Karen had lied again. Can you believe the gall of that woman? His anger bubbled like a pot about to boil over. But he wasn't done, not by a long shot. If this rule was fake, there had to be a way to hit back hard. He fired off emails left and right, one to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, another to the state HOA Regulatory Board, and even one to a local housing rights attorney who'd seen it all. How long would it take to hear back? Who knew? But waiting around, not an option. Karen wasn't just some petty annoyance anymore. Oh no, she'd crossed a legal line, and Eric was ready to drag her back over it. The next morning, bam, his phone buzzed, jolting him awake. An email from the HOA board popped up. Subject, HOA Guest Permit Inquiry. From Oak Ridge Estates. HOA Board to Eric Johnson. Dear Mr. Johnson, your concerns regarding the guest permit requirement will be addressed at our upcoming HOA meeting. As a reminder, all homeowners are encouraged to participate in discussions regarding neighborhood policies. The next scheduled HOA meeting will take place on Tuesday, 11 a.m. We hope to see you there. Sincerely, Oak Ridge Estates HOA Board. Eric stared at the screen, his stomach twisting into knots of pure frustration. 11 a.m. On a Tuesday? Are you kidding me? Karen had orchestrated this on purpose. She knew darn well most working folks like him couldn't just ditch their jobs mid-morning. Who could make it? Retirees, stay-at-home spouses, and her little posse of hand-picked cronies who'd never dare question her iron grip. He clenched his jaw so tight it hurt. This was a setup, plain and simple. Without missing a beat, Eric snatched his phone and dialed his boss. Hey, I need to take off Tuesday morning, he said, forcing a casual tone despite the storm brewing inside. A long, agonizing pause crackled through the line. Tuesday? His boss finally grumbled. That's short notice, Eric. We've got that big client meeting at 10:10. Eric rubbed his forehead, sweat beating up. Ugh, why now? I know, but this is huge, really important. Another pause, heavier this time. His boss sighed, clearly annoyed. Is it an emergency? Eric hesitated. Technically, no, but if he didn't show up, Karen would steamroll him. It's something I have to handle personally, he said, choosing his words like stepping through a minefield. His boss wasn't buying it, not yet. Look, I like you, Eric, but I can't have you bailing on work for some HOA drama. Can't this wait? No, Eric snapped, sharper than he meant to oops. He took a deep breath, reeling it back in. If I miss this meeting, they'll ram through a rule that'll cost me $1,500. And if they get away with it once, they'll keep coming back for more. His boss groaned, a frustrated growl of a sound. Damn HOA nonsense. Fine, but you better be back by noon, no later. Understood, Eric said, relief crashing over him like a wave. Thank you! He hung up, exhaling so hard it felt like he'd been holding his breath for hours. Karen thought she could box him in ha. She had no clue he was about to storm in fighting, armed to the teeth with facts, law, and a plan to shut her down for good. Tuesday morning rolled around and the Oak Ridge clubhouse loomed ahead. Oh, it was a sight. Polished wood floors gleamed. Tasteful decor screamed elegance. But it was all a sham, just like the HOA board running the show. Eric shoved open the heavy doors with a purpose, stepping inside, and bam, the room went dead silent. A long mahogany table stretched across the space, and who was perched at the far end like some smug royalty. Karen Whitmore, sitting there like a queen on her throne. Flanking her were her loyal minions, 3 older white guys with stern faces, 2 elderly women with pinched expressions, all neighborhood fossils who'd known Karen forever and swallowed her every word without a second thought. Talk about a fan club. Eric's eyes darted around. Wait, what? The room was half empty. This wasn't a real HOA meeting, it was a Karen rally. She'd stacked the deck with her supporters and picked a time when only her allies could show up. Regular folks with jobs? No chance. Karen's lips curled into a smug, condescending smirk that made his blood boil. Ah, Eric, she chirped, gesturing to an empty seat across from her like she was doing him a favor. I assume you're here about the fine? Oh, she thought she had him pegged, didn't she? Eric didn't even glance at the chair, nah. Instead, he marched straight to the table and slammed a thick folder onto its glossy surface. Boom. The sound ricocheted through the tense silence like a gunshot. Actually, he said, flipping open the cover with a flourish, I'm here to talk about something else. Karen's face stiffened just for a split second, but he caught it. He yanked out the first page and slid it across the table like a challenge. Georgia HOA law's no guest permit requirement exists. Fair Housing Act. Selective enforcement of rules can be classified as harassment. Consumer protection laws. Illegal fees can result in fines against the HOA itself. Take that, Karen. Her eyebrow twitched. Gotcha. And one of the old guys adjusted his glasses, looking totally thrown. Karen, though, she didn't even flinch, not yet. Instead, she let out this loud, over-the-top sigh and leaned back in her chair like she owned the world. Oh, Eric, she cooed, her voice dripping with that fake sweetness that made his skin crawl. I'm afraid you just don't understand how HOA regulations work. Eric clenched his jaw. Oh, she did not just say that. I understand just fine. He dug into his pocket and tossed 2 business cards onto the table. Bam, bam. I spoke with the local housing authority and the state consumer protection office. They're very interested in how you're enforcing rules that don't even exist. How's that for a wake-up call, huh? The room froze dead silence. For one electrifying heartbeat, Karen's perfect mask slipped. Did you see that? Her eyes flashed with something sharp and icy, a glint of pure venom, before she slapped on a bright, patronizing smile faster than you could blink. Well, she purred, flipping through her clipboard like it was her royal scepter. HOA regulations are always evolving to protect this precious community's integrity. If you'd bothered to actually read the guidelines, Eric, you'd know homeowner safety is our top priority, duh. One of her loyal minions, a wiry little guy with graying hair and a weasel-like grin, nodded so hard you'd think his head might pop off. Karen seized the moment. Oh, she was quick. With all that recent vandalism creeping around the area, isn't it just common sense? We'd be extra cautious about who's crashing overnight. Guest permits are a total necessity. Eric's eyes narrowed. Oh, he wasn't buying this garbage. Then why does this so-called rule only apply to me, huh? He fired back, his voice cutting through her nonsense like a blade. Karen gasped, clutching her chest with all the drama of a soap opera queen. Really? Eric, are you seriously accusing this board of? She let out a smug little chuckle. Discrimination? That's quite the wild claim, buddy. The board members squirmed in their seats. Awkward much? One of the older women cleared her throat, her voice trembling slightly. Karen, if this rule isn't written down anywhere, but Karen swooped in like a hawk, cutting her off mid-sentence. It is written down. It just hasn't been updated in the shiny new homeowner manual yet. Oops. Eric raised an eyebrow. Oh, come on. Then show me the old version right now. Karen sighed, loud and theatrical, shaking her head like he was some clueless kid. I'm afraid I don't have it on me at the moment, sorry. Convenient. Eric shot back, his tone dripping with sarcasm. The older guy on the board frowned, scratching his chin. Karen, maybe we should. No, she snapped, her voice cracking like a whip. I think we should focus on the real issue here. A homeowner blatantly ignored a simple community request, and now he's trying to squirm out of it with... She waved a dismissive hand at Eric's stack of papers, these pathetic legal loopholes. A wave of frustration crashed over Eric. Ugh, the nerve of this woman. This isn't a loophole, he growled, his voice low and steady, barely containing the storm inside. You made up a rule out of thin air, enforced it on one person, me, and slapped an illegal $1,500 fine on it. That's not a loophole, Karen. That's harassment. She laughed, actually laughed. Oh, Eric, she cooed, her tone so syrupy it could rot teeth. I know you're upset, poor thing, but making threats against your own community? That's not how we solve problems around here. Eric took a bold step forward, slamming both hands on the table. Bam! I'm not making threats, he declared, his eyes locking onto hers. I'm making a promise, hear me loud and clear. If this fine isn't dropped immediately, I will sue this HOA. Karen's eyes hardened. Oh, snap. For the first time, her smug confidence flickered like a dying candle. Eric felt the air shift. Did you feel that too? The board members weren't staring at her like she was their fearless dictator anymore. Nope. Now they were eyeing her like she was a ticking time bomb. Her face was a blank slate when Eric landed that final, earth-shaking blow in the HOA meeting. She didn't argue, didn't throw a fit, nothing. Instead, she just smiled, a slow, stiff, creepy little grin that screamed calculation. That evening, an official HOA email blasted out to the whole neighborhood. Guess what? The fine was dropped. No apology, no explanation, just a cold, one-line note. After reviewing policy, the fine against Eric Johnson has been rescinded. Done and dusted. But hold up, did Eric really think Karen would just slink away quietly? No way. He knew better, and boy was he right. Over the next 2 weeks, Karen unleashed her petty wrath like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Eric got hit with 3 separate warnings about his trash bins. Can you believe this nonsense? First, they were too close to the curb, seriously? Then, not properly secured, what even? And finally, bins should not be visible from the street. Oh, give me a break. A letter popped up in his mailbox whining that his front door's deep brown color, unchanged since day one, wasn't in the community's neutral palette. The neighborhood landscapers, who'd never touched his lawn before, suddenly accidentally buzzed his grass so short it looked like a bad haircut, scalped and sad. Then one morning, poof, his mailbox vanished. HOA rules said he had to file a report for a replacement, and guess who'd have to sign off on it? Karen. What a coincidence, right? Eric didn't bite, though, nope. He didn't charge into another meeting or give her the blowout she was fishing for. Why? Because he had a secret weapon. He knew something she didn't. The neighborhood was buzzing, people were talking. Karen's iron grip was crumbling, and she didn't even see it coming. It started small, little whispers rippling through Oak Ridge Estates as Eric's fine fiasco spread like wildfire. An elderly couple grumbled about how Karen shot down their wheelchair ramp. Request why? Because it disrupted sidewalk uniformity. How cruel is that? A single mom spilled how Karen fined her for housing a guest when it was just her little brother crashing while he hunted for an apartment. Unbelievable. Another guy confessed his landscaping bills had spiked 40% since Karen took over, yet the HOA budget never showed a dime more for maintenance. Where'd that cash go, huh? By the end of week 2, the dam broke. Enough folks stepped up that a formal complaint slammed into the state housing authority's inbox. Karen Whitmore was officially under investigation. Boom. Then, on a quiet Thursday evening, every homeowner's phone pinged with an email. Subject, HOA President resignation. Karen was out just like that. No grand speech, no teary goodbye, just a curt two-liner. She was stepping down due to personal reasons. A week later, a for sale sign stabbed into her lawn. By month's end, she was gone. Poof. And Oak Ridge Estates? It never looked better. With Karen out of the picture, the whole vibe shifted. Can you feel the relief? The air lightened up, that suffocating tension lifting like a storm cloud finally breaking. For the first time in years, Eric could step outside without bracing for some snarky letter in his mailbox. Freedom at last. The new HOA president, Miss S. Evelyn Carter, was Karen's polar opposite, thank goodness. A sharp retired attorney in her 60s, she oozed fairness and transparency, treating folks like grown-ups, not pawns in her petty kingdom. Her first move? She axed Karen's bogus guest permit rule and refunded every unjust fine from her reign. Yes, HOA is here to serve homeowners, not control them. She declared at her first meeting, and Eric? He believed every word. Finally. Over the next few months, life in Oak Ridge Estates settled into a sweet rhythm, balance restored. Meetings shifted to sane hours so regular folks could actually show up. Imagine that. New policies got aired out in the open. Fair for all. Landscaping fees audited at last, exposing shady gaps that vanished under Karen's watch. Where'd that money go? Karen? No more petty fines, no sneaky rule switches, no targeting, just peace. People smiled, more genuine smiles. Neighbors chatted again, fences mended. The community finally felt like home, a place where everyone belonged. One evening, Eric lounged on his porch with Diane, the sunset painting the sky in warm hues, pure bliss. She sighed, content as can be. Feels like home now, doesn't it? Eric grinned, his heart light for once. It does, Mom, it really does. But what about Karen? Oh, she didn't take her fall gracefully, not a chance. After quitting the HOA, she slipped her house on the market and bolted from Oak Ridge Estates. No big farewell, no last hurrah, just a vacant shell and a for sale sign. She landed in a smaller, less fancy neighborhood across town. Nobody knew her there. And better yet, she had zero clout. But old habits, they cling tight. Within weeks, she was sniffing around her new HOA, showing up at meetings, nitpicking the landscaping, firing off friendly emails to the president about standards. Classic Karen. This time, though, her new neighbors weren't playing along. Oh no. The HOA president, a tough ex-military gal with zero tolerance for drama, shut her down cold. We don't do things that way here, Karen, she barked. You're just another homeowner, deal with it. For the first time in forever, Karen had to live under rules she couldn't twist. How's that taste, huh? Instead of ruling, she sulked on Facebook, whining in local groups, and spamming passive-aggressive jabs on Nextdoor. But guess what? Nobody cared, not a soul. Back in Oak Ridge Estates, life marched on, brighter than ever, and Karen? She was just a bitter ex-queen with no throne left to claim.